Okay, Bleach fans, it seems as though the fandom right now is in somewhat of an uproar and somewhat very much so you could argue chaotic, skeptical, and in general, maybe a little bit worrisome because we recently got a massive update that I'm going to right now for this video say that it is not 1000 trillion% confirmed, but I've been seeing this kind of making its way around the anime and manga community, and this news in particular, well, if you can see by the title, then you know what I'm about to talk about. Apparently, the final core of Bleach's 1000-year Blood War is not going to be with as many eps as we thought it would be. There's not going to be the full-on, complete, well, you would say amount of episodes, right? Because normally a season of an anime usually has around 12 to 13 episodes, on top of the fact that with this in particular, when it comes to Bleach's 1000-year Blood War, many people were under the assumption that Bleach's 1000-year Blood War was going to be for its final core 12 to 13 episodes, because we also got in the initial press release way back when all of this was first announced that Bleach's 1000-year Blood War was going to be a certain amount of episodes. They basically said like, yo, it's going to be anywhere from 50 to 52. I want to say they were very much so heavy on the 52, but based on this recent update, it might not be the case. And we also got some other big stuff to talk about for the fact of like Hunter x Hunter's numbers and Hunter x Hunter's success is kind of rivaling at this particular point the GOAT, the big piece, the One Piece, and we got to talk about that because that is a massive deal when anything even comes close to what One Piece can do. And there's also a couple of author comments that I felt were very noteworthy to discuss as well. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump into another exciting episode of Forever News. And before we continue, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell to get all notifications in the world of anime and manga. We got you covered on this channel if you hit the subscribe button and hit that bell. Yes, people, the Bleach community as it stands right now is getting a little bit chaotic because this news has been making its rounds. Some people are saying like, yo, it's not 100% confirmed. Other people are saying like, yo, it's nothing to really be upset about because things is going to go accordingly regardless. It's still going to be a great season. But nevertheless, the update that we got is as follows. TV anime Bleach 1000-year Blood War The Calamity Core 4 is apparently listed for only 10 episodes in total. The final part, directed by Hikaru Murata at Studio Pierrot Films, is scheduled to premiere July 25th. And despite that only being a small little blurb, so to speak, a small little paragraph, that was enough to make people go in a frenzy and make people very much so go back and forth about this whole scenario, because again, people were under the assumption that this season was going to be 12 to 13 episodes. Because the official press release from Oricon when it initially came out was that Bleach's 1000-year Blood War was confirmed by the official Bleach website and Oricon News to run for 4 cores, totaling 50 to 52 episodes split over several parts. This announcement detailed a 4-core structure with breaks in between, covering the entirety of the series finale arc. And as it stands right now, Bleach's 1000-year Blood War is sitting at 40 episodes between the first 3 cores, 13, 13, 14. Which I'll say, based off that first press release, don't really remember them saying 50 to 52. Pretty sure it was straight up like, yo, it's gonna be 52 episodes. But if it was 50 to 52 episodes, then it's not like they lied or anything. It's not like there's any, you know, backpedaling, so to speak, on this scenario, because again, 50 episodes would equal what we would have at the end of this whole thing if we already have 40 and they add 10 more. However, the whole 52 episode thing where people again thought we were going to get 12, 13 is where the, I guess you would say, disconnect and where some of the discourse has began within the Bleach fandom. And there's a couple of things to say about this. For starters, the fact that there's a possibility that some of these episodes are going to release in a lengthy manner, meaning, well, maybe the series premiere or the series finale could be a couple of episodes bunched up together. So there's a possibility that initially, yeah, they were all going to be singular episodes that were released leading into the finale, and then because maybe they decided to do things different, they decided to bundle up a couple of the episodes. So technically it was going to be 12 or 13, and that content is still going to reside in there, but they're going to compact it down into 10 episodes by combining a few episodes episodes. That's a possibility, and honestly, what would be the reason to be mad if you're getting like some double features, so to speak? On top of the fact that we did get confirmation, and I guess this is also where some people are a little bit worried, because we got confirmation a while back that some of the stuff from the novels of Bleach was going to be incorporated into the anime. So I guess as far as pacing goes, some people are probably concerned like, okay, so wait a minute, if they're on top of the fact of already adapting what is remaining of the manga chapters, and then they're going to be adding in content from the novels, are they going to have enough time to really make sure this is all spaced out properly and everything is going to go accordingly? Are they going to have to rush through things? Mind you, the fact that we gotta keep in mind that Bleach 1000-Year Blood War, as great as it is, there is massive amounts of fights, and usually the fights run pretty quick. It's like, you know, not very dialogue heavy, and sometimes some of those chapters could be adapted within 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes of an episode, opposed to sometimes, you know, you could kind of fill up a whole episode with a chapter. With some of these Bleach chapters, and that's notorious for what Bleach has done, they would usually use quite a few chapters per episode. And shout out to the homie Lord Agent M for sending me this little piece of information that kind of gives you a better understanding of what still needs to be adapted for this finale. Because basically what it seems to be, this could possibly be the way they divvy things up, where the first episode is going to be Kisuke Yoruichi versus Askin, Uryu versus Drew Graham, followed by the second episode, Kisuke versus Askin, which, oh my gosh, woo! Then the third episode will be Ichigo versus Yuhabaha starting. Fourth episode, Toshiro, Byakuya, and Zaraki versus Gerard. Hoshwald and Ichigo versus Yowatch. Fifth episode, end of Uryu versus Drew Graham. End of Ichigo versus Yowatch round 3. Episodes 6 to 8, a mix of new content, and of course, the final battle, with episodes 9 and 10 being the finale. And honestly, that doesn't sound like a bad way to split all the content up into each episode, because again, so many people are right now worried like on how they're going to be able to pull this off. But honestly, the fact that we got to keep in mind the original creator is involved. This isn't something where Studio Pierrot was left up to their own devices and decided like, yo, this is what we're doing. If Kubo is involved, why aren't you having faith? If the original creator is involved, you should have the utmost faith. That's the same reason why right now, despite them announcing a Naruto live action, and historically people usually get upset about a Naruto live action, because of the involvement of Masashi Kishimoto, people are actually very hopeful and thinking that maybe they can do this. The same reason why the One Piece live action has gotten in the past from certain sections critical praise, because Eiichiro Oda was involved. So when you have the original creator involved in certain aspects like this, usually it's in good hands, because you have the original creator's original vision and their direction and all of that good stuff to make sure things go accordingly, nothing goes wrong, nothing bad is going to happen. So honestly, I think right now, for people that are upset about this or concerned or worried, I think you're just gonna have to have a little bit more faith. Honestly, you're gonna have to have more faith, in particular in the original creator, you know, the guy that mapped all this out to begin with, the guy that created all of this to begin with. Yeah, if he's involved, that means that we're in good hands. Everything is going to be fine. Everything is going to work out the way it's supposed to. Just kind of don't worry so much. Like, things is gonna be all right. But on the other side of things, I will say that if it is only just 10, you know, straight normal sized episodes or whatnot, it is maybe a little bit disappointing on the fact of like, who doesn't want more Bleach episodes, right? Like, we get into these things because we enjoy this content. We get into these things because we enjoy these anime. So yeah, we're probably going to want more episodes, but sometimes, you know what I'm saying? You ever heard the saying of less is more? And this might be a scenario of that particular case of, if it is only 10 episodes, that means you're going to get all of the most important stuff all right there, all into these episodes. You're not going to have any type of filler. You're not going to have any type of things that is like, oh, we're dragging on. It's just going to be straight up everything that you want possible, going hardcore with full beautiful art and animation. Like, I think we're in great hands, and I think that there's really not much to worry about, other than the fact that, yeah, it would have been nice to have a few extra weeks of enjoying Bleach, but it is what it is. But let me know what you guys think about this whole thing. How do you feel about the Bleach update that potentially, instead of getting 12 to 13 episodes, it's only going to be 10 episodes? Do you think that they could pull this off and make it proper to, you know, faithful to the source material, on top of all the new and original stuff that they're going to add in? Do you think that it's too short, that it needs those extra 2 to 3 episodes? And do you feel any which way? Because again, a lot of us were led to believe with that first press release that, yo, it's 52, and then you find out that, okay, it's probably only going to be 50. Do you feel any type of way about that? Again, from what I seen right there, it said it was originally 50 to 52, and if that's the case, then where's the lie? And your overall thoughts and expectations for this thing. Bleach TYBW Blood War is heading our way, and it's going to be a major deal. Okay, so moving forward, I found this to be extremely interesting, right? Because I've even said in recent times that what if Hunter x Hunter never had that irregular schedule that it had all these years, where essentially, you know, Togashi would take all of these massive breaks? Like, what if there was more consistency involved? What the numbers would be like, and of course, what would it compare to one of its only contemporaries that are still remaining in the magazine of Weekly Shonen Jump, One Piece, right? Because One Piece is, of course, we already know, one of the most successful of all time, sold a quadrillion copies of the manga. It's still, to this particular point, the leader of Weekly Shonen Jump. Without One Piece, you lose a gigantic amount of audience because it's still that much popular, still that much read, and still that much so leader of Weekly Shonen Jump, despite the fact that, again, it already spans across a few generations. But again, Hunter x Hunter has always had not only the quality to, you know, match up to One Piece, but also the following to match up to One Piece. And well, recently the latest volume of One Piece and the latest volume of Hunter x Hunter has come out, and the numbers are in, and some people are like, wow, they're actually a lot closer than you would have imagined. It says here, the difference between One Piece and Hunter x Hunter's new volumes being only 225k is crazy. One Piece's latest volume did 627, while Hunter x Hunter's latest volume did 401. This is the shortest gap since Oricon started. Last time they released together in 24, One Piece's volume was at 811 and Hunter x Hunter was at 465. So obviously both of them had somewhat of a decrease. Hunter x Hunter a little bit less than One Piece, because at this point One Piece, you could argue, it was like what, close to 200 less, while Hunter x Hunter lost about 50 something or so. So this is a few things to take into account. Like, let's be honest and let's be genuine and let's be real about this thing. Keep in mind that One Piece, it doesn't, you know, necessarily go away. Like, Oda takes breaks here and there, but nothing like what Hunter x Hunter has historically taken breaks from, right? So at the end of the day, One Piece is going to have an audience that is more conditioned, but at the same time, some people are going to be like, it's been going on forever, so some might actually stray away. Although down the road, these people, if you already bought 100 and something volumes of One Piece, you're probably going to want to finish the collection, right? So those people are eventually going to go get those volumes regardless. So it's not really an audience that has been lost by any case. Might be people that are like, I get it in another week or two, it's One Piece. While Hunter x Hunter has been a rare treat where you only get it here and there, so people immediately, they're running out to get it. It is an event when Hunter x Hunter comes out, and ultimately it's just two different ways to release material, and you see the benefits of them. Like, honestly, it also is a demonstration that, because again, you can't really say for sure what Hunter x Hunter's numbers would be like if it never took those insane breaks that it has historically. Like, maybe the numbers would be better, maybe the numbers would be less, who knows? But what we can say for sure is right now, Hunter x Hunter is not far off from One Piece, and if Togashi did decide, we know that he's at the very least been discussing the idea of utilizing AI for his works. If he decided to utilize AI based off of his art style, no, you know, any of the other nonsense or whatnot that people could, you know, throw at it, there's a possibility Hunter x Hunter could stick around for a lot longer with less breaks. I mean, we see that regardless of what, even without the usage of AI, based on what's been said thus far, that he's been turning in manuscripts left and right. Like, he's really been consistent this time around. So there's a possibility that Hunter x Hunter could stick around for the long haul this time, and these numbers are getting pretty close, and I think it's great. I think it's great to give competition. We haven't had any sort of competition in Weekly Shonen Jump for One Piece in forever. Like, it's been very, very long since anything has even come close. So to have Hunter x Hunter coming around might, you know, up the quality. Honestly, a good rivalry can boost both people's, you know, creativity and all of that good stuff. So at the end of the day, it's a massive win for the readers, it's a massive win for the supporters, it's a massive win for the fans at the end of the day. And I will say that I genuinely hope that Togashi does stick around, because stuff like this, it might get Oda to be like, okay, you competition right here, let me step my game up, you feel me? But let me know what you guys think. How do you feel about One Piece and Hunter x Hunter getting real close in numbers? Do you think that it's just strictly because One Piece is regular and Hunter x Hunter comes around once in a while? And also, I don't feel like there's any reason to look at either one of them as if they're in a better position per se, and let me explain that. Because there's just different ways for things to be released. Some things on a regularly scheduled basis, people still really appreciate it, and One Piece is still very much so revered as a quality work. So you get One Piece regularly and consistently, but it's still quality. It's just that, yo, you're getting more of it. While Hunter x Hunter, it's a rare treat, well, historically thus far has been, and ultimately when you get it, it's like, oh, it's a big event. But that doesn't take away from One Piece being consistent, and that also doesn't take away from the celebration of, yo, new Hunter x Hunter. Different creatives work differently, release differently, and that's okay. Like, I really am not a fan of judging how people put out their product when they, release their content. What works for one doesn't always work for the other, and without any sort of bias involved. But for example, while an artist like Drake will release consistently constant music or whatnot, a Kendrick Lamar will release once in a while, and it works for both of them in their own ways. Their separate ways of releasing music is how they do things, and that's what works for each creative. But yeah, do you think there's a possibility that Hunter x Hunter could actually even catch up to One Piece if Togashi was consistent enough? Especially if that anime return happens. I don't know. Togashi, I'm just saying, dog, I know you necessarily never really wanted the crown, but it's within reach. Moving forward, we got a recent comment from the author of Blue Box that kind of has some people talking, and it actually kind of adds even further to the conversation of what we were just talking about release schedules and people just being more so engulfed in their work. Because the creator of Blue Box said, and if there are any work requests, please kindly reach out to the Jump editorial department. Give me work. Freedom is scary, and a little emoji of like somebody sleeping. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I feel like partially there's just some troll in there, some joke in there, and at the same time some truth in there. Like, I do think that the author is turning it into like, oh, I'm just joking, but actually genuinely would appreciate to get back on the ball game. It might be a case of maybe the editorial staff actually pushed this author to make this actually end a lot sooner than maybe the author really didn't want to end it. Just because they put out a press release and saying like, yes, the author has reached their conclusion doesn't necessarily mean that that's what the author actually felt. And maybe the author had more to do, and ultimately the series had to come to a conclusion because the higher up said, yo, end it. And maybe because that author in particular isn't in a position of like a Oda or a Togashi or, one of those higher ups that is like completely filthy rich, and let me not say filthy rich, but very well off, where they could just kick back. Maybe that author actually not necessarily needs the work, but maybe it could also be somewhere in the lines of maybe it's just good for the author. Maybe the author is being funny about it. Freedom is scary, but is more so kind of adding in the factor of adding to something I recently said, like, yo, staying busy is just really good for you. And maybe the author actually wants to continue on working, and without Blue Box, at the end of the day, that is a revenue stream. The author could be very well off. Blue Box sold quite a bit, but to quote a really awesome artist, there's never enough dough. There's never enough money. You feel me? Especially with inflation on the rise and stuff like that. Like, yeah, get that bag. Get this author some more work if that's what they want. And then one more story from an author that I thought was very interesting. The author of Kuroko's Basketball, Tadatoshi Fujimaki, says his manga Kill Blue saved his career. I wasn't enjoying drawing manga because of the negative pressure to produce results equal to or better than Kuroko's Basketball. Again, in case you don't know, Kuroko no Basket was one of the most biggest sports manga we had ever seen. It was just ginormous, and when the author ended that series, there was a lot of pressure to, recreate that magic, make another hit. This work has saved me. Instead of chasing results thinking I have to create a hit, I was able to simply enjoy drawing it. And honestly, I love hearing that, because even as a creative here in the content world, some people, they're constantly just focused on how can I make a viral hit, how can I make a video that's going to get 800 trillion views. But if you focus in on just creating what you like, the results are going to come in. Like, I think that series already got an anime adaptation, and that's that it kind of ended maybe earlier than expected. And yeah, it's not Kuroko no Basket, but at the very least, the author did what he wanted. It's still successful, and it took off a lot of that pressure of trying to live up to expectations from a previous work that was, it was a mega hit. Kuroko no Basket, honestly, one of my favorite sports series. It was just really freaking good. So yeah, I say all that to say, create what you want. Don't necessarily try and chase the hits. I mean, if there's something that you enjoy and it kind of lines up with things that could actually make success come in, then great, go for it, but just do your best and enjoy yourself. Okay, so I wanted to do a postscript addendum regarding this whole discussion from this comment of the creator of Kuroko no Basket, and kind of him talking about the aftermath of him essentially looking for a hit manga, trying to create a hit, so to speak, after the series was over. And it wasn't until he kind of just decided to, make what he wanted to make, that ultimately things started to go into place. And I think that that's very important. I think that's a very big lesson that kind of in general, because whether you're a youngin, you looking like you want success, you want it early, sometimes at the end of the day, it's best to just do what you're good at, do what you're best at, and kind of be consistent, and eventually it'll happen. Because sometimes you hear these stories of like people reaching certain levels of success early on in life and kind of, you know, well, again, like for example, the creator of Kuroko, where he kind of, you know, made the biggest hit of the world for sports, and then after the fact he was kind of, you know, searching for that next hit. But if things were different and maybe he had created that hit later, and that was kind of like something that probably was a big ordeal for him. So, you know, your success is going to come to you when it comes. Don't feel like you need to be in a rush to reach levels of success. Like, obviously everybody wants to be successful, and if it's in, you know, your grasp, so to speak, to reach the levels that you want to reach, then of course go for it. But don't feel like you need to rush. Don't feel like you need to go out of your way and do things that aren't you, or do things that kind of don't feel good to yourself. Always make sure that you stay true to yourself in whatever form that may be, and then eventually, you know, what you're looking for will come. Yeah, just wanted to add that in there because I felt it was important. Because I mean, you see, you know, whether it be artists, rappers, I mean, not to, you know, point at any particular artist, but like look at Lil Pump. I don't know why I decided to bring him up, but yeah, he had his massive hits early, and since then hasn't really, you get what I'm saying? Not that it's too late for that artist either. Like, hey, if an artist like that really wasn't the greatest rapper in the world, like imagine if he got a ghostwriter that helped him to be able to actually be a lyrical spitter in combination or unison with writing some type of melodic or hit record type of scenario. Like, things can happen even after the fact, so just never give up. But that's all I have for this one. I'm Tim. As always, people, have an awesome day. Peace in.